Hey LTW families. Today I'm going to teach you some of the key terms and the way that LTW works a little bit so that way you can be prepared for what the school year is going to look like for you and your student. So the first term we're going to talk about is invention. In some of the previous videos you probably have noticed that the way that the book is divided up is divided up into, or the essays are divided up into three sections: invention, arrangement, and elocution. So our invention is when we create something to say. We're coming up with an idea. We are inventing an idea to write about. So that is what we're doing during the week when we are doing invention. And the end result of an invention week will always be an Annie chart. That's the next term I'm going to teach you about. An Annie chart, which is introduced in the very first essay, actually is the method that we use to teach the students how to organize their thoughts, and it stands for affirmative, negative, and interesting. That's where we get the term Annie from. So you're going to hear that word a lot, and also it will be a useful tool not just for this writing program but for the future thought process of the student. Some people, it's similar to a pros and cons chart, but it goes into more depth. Okay, so I'm going to go into that a little bit more. So I'm going to move on. So the next week we do arrangement, and whenever you think of arrangement, maybe you think about arranging flowers or furniture, and what you're really doing when you're arranging things is you're figuring out, you're taking the things that you've chosen to use in your decor, and you're figuring out what way you want to put it. How do you want to put it? And that's what we've done, because after we make our Annie chart and we do our invention, we've made the decision and we've already come up with all the things to say. But during arrangement, we're going to figure out the order of which we're going to arrange them and figure out the order of which we're going to say them. So the end result of an arrangement week is an outline, which I think most people are likely really familiar with the concept of an outline. So it's a really useful skill that will go with them for a long way. So arrangement week is when we learn how to create an outline. That will always be the end result of an arrangement week. And lastly, we have our elocution week. Now during elocution, the word elocution means the art of saying something well. So we've already come up with what we want to say. We figured out the order in which we want to say it, so we spend a whole week learning how to say it well. And so when we're doing our elocution week, that's when we write our essay. So another key term I wanted you to know about is the term worksheet. Now you will hear that term often. This workbook, the student workbook for LTW, is full of your worksheets. Now we're not using worksheets in the traditional method that most curriculums use worksheets in this program. This is full of, there are blanks on these worksheets, but this is something that's really important that I need you to understand. This workbook, these worksheets are not intended for the student to work in. Reason being is because we're actually building. So when we learn the skill, the new skill that they're going to learn, the worksheet for essay 2, invention, then every other essay after that, they're going to do that skill. So if they're working out the problems in their workbook or on their worksheet, then it will be filled in for a different essay and they won't have blank pages, which is why we're going to be doing all of the work from these worksheets in the notebook that you guys have purchased for your students. So when we are doing them, we will just copy the important parts. We won't necessarily need to copy everything here, just where there's a blank. So this right here says name and eyewitness. This is at the end. Let me go to the beginning. This is essay 2. And so you'll notice there is a chart here. So the student will actually copy this chart in their notebook, and then they will fill it in. They're not going to fill it in this workbook or on this worksheet. And that's a really important thing that I need you to understand, because far too many times the students are used to writing in a book and they do it, and then it makes it difficult to use that for future essays. Okay, so now we're going to talk about a couple of different things. So building an Annie is a big part of what we do. So I need you to understand how we go about building an Annie. So in the very beginning, an Annie chart is just coming out of their heads, but after that first essay, every single step of the way, every essay, we teach them a new skill or introduce to them a new worksheet in the book. And each worksheet is intended to go in it's a new tool to put in their toolbox. And so I think Allison probably went over what the LTW toolbox is and how to use it. So each worksheet is going to be completed, and then we're going to take the information from that worksheet and we're going to plug it into the Annie chart. So after I have filled out let's say that I am completing the comparison chart, and on the comparison chart I am comparing, here's my issue. My issue is whether Ariel should have made a deal with Ursula. So when I get to that comparison worksheet and I am filling it in, there will be a lot of facts that I'm putting on there. And it might say Ariel and Ursula are both sea creatures. Then I would put on my worksheet each one of those facts. Ariel is a mermaid. I would also put Ursula is a squid. Okay, so all of those bits of information are going to go piece by piece from the worksheet, and we're going to put them into the interesting column. After we've done that, so as you can tell, eventually the interesting column is going to be quite long. But then the students are going to go through that interesting column, and then they're going to piece by piece decide, is this going to help us to decide on our issue in the affirmative or in the negative? For instance, the fact that Ariel is a mermaid, should that have helped her to decide that yes, she should have gone to the surface, or no, she should not have gone to the surface? So most of the students are going to answer in the way of that should help her to decide that no, she should not have gone to the surface. So I'm not going to remove it from my interesting column, but I am going to add it to my negative column. Okay, and we're going to go down our interesting column after we've pulled all of the facts from our worksheet, and we're going to decide piece by piece where they go. And a quick note, I need you to understand that if a student makes the decision that it can go both in the affirmative column and in the negative column, that can be correct. As in, I could say, Ariel loves to sing, so no, she shouldn't have gone to the surface because she lost her ability to sing as a result, but yes, she should have because Eric has heard her sing and he will know her voice. So these are some things, if the students can make sense of it in their own mind, then it's okay that it goes into both columns. Okay? So I just wanted to make sure that you all understand that when we are working through our invention worksheets, they all are going to go into the interesting column first, piece by piece, and then the students will decide where do they belong. They're going to put them in their specific columns that they feel like they would fit into. All right, and another thing that you're going to notice is as the year progresses, as we continue on with each essay, when a student is assigned an essay, they're going to do all the new skill, the new worksheet that they just learned, and also all of the other ones previous. For instance, when we get to essay 3, the students are going to, and we're doing invention, the students are going to complete the worksheet for the invention worksheet for essay 3, but then also the one for essay 2 and essay 1. And it will be like that every single week. Same thing with arrangement and with elocution. The thing is, when we're learning a new skill, we don't learn it and move on. We learn it and we add to it. So that is something that you're going to have to help make sure that your student understands, because we're working those muscles and we're exercising them by using them every time we write. So as the year progresses, the amount of items that are going to be assigned from your teacher and on your syllabus for your students to write on their Annie chart increases with every essay. The reason for that is because we're adding more tools to their toolbox. With every essay, they're getting a new invention worksheet, which in turn will give them more information to put on the Annie chart. Okay, so what happens if my student gets to, when we're towards the end of the year and the assignment is to have 45 items and each of the columns, keep in mind when it's listed, it's for every column, 45 for the A, 45 for the N, and 45 for the I. What happens if my student's struggling and we've chosen an issue and we're really having a hard time? Let's say we only have 35 and we need 45. Now keep in mind this is a minimum, but here's my suggestion. Go back to some of the invention worksheets and choose additional terms to add to work the worksheets in. For instance, one of the worksheets is definition. So they can choose a different term to define. Or for the comparison worksheet, they can choose two different things to compare. So maybe last time we compared Ariel and Ursula, this time we could compare Ariel and Triton. So choose additional people or terms to compare. That's just a tip. If your student's really struggling to get that finished, go back and rework some of those. My favorites are the definition and the comparison because it really errs towards being able to pull more information out. So when it comes to arrangement week, we've talked a lot about the invention week. When it comes to arrangement week, there is a process that the student workbook is going to bring you down, and then the end result is an outline. That's going to be written in their notebook. Remember that in the back of the book and the student and in the teacher, there are example templates, and that also includes the templates for the outlines. So remember to follow along on that. And also remember that when you get to the outlines, this is a point, the items that are labeled with an asterisk, those are to be, that word is to be replaced with their exordium. But if there is no asterisk, then they're just writing the word. So for instance, this says exordium with an asterisk, they're gonna write their own exordium, but they're just gonna write the word division there as a placeholder. So the skill to be completed is, the item to be completed each week for arrangement is the outline, and they will bring that to class in their notebook. And lastly, when we are doing our elocution, we are going to be typing all of our essays. So we are teaching the kids the skill of typing an essay for the purpose of neatness, in addition to having a specific format that they're going to need to follow. So in the community files, there is an example format, and make sure that your student is learning the skill of putting a heading, putting a title, and formatting their essay appropriately, and they will bring a printed copy of their essay. Okay? Just remember that you are the teacher. And it's really important that you understand that when your student brings work in all subjects, but I want to make sure that I'm being very clear, we are not grading this paper as teachers. When your student brings in their final paper, it should be after they have written a rough draft, you have gone over it with them. Together you guys have made any edits that need to be made, and you have graded that, and that is what they bring to class. When we say their final essay for that book, it is that essay after it has been rough draft, edited, and graded. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that. Okay? And so that is all of the information that I have for you here. We are really looking forward to what LTW looks like. It is a great foundation for a thought process for these kids, and it's something that we're passionate about, and we love to see the results of the thought process that come from these kids at the end of this program. So just be encouraged, reference this video back if you need it after you've done this for a little bit, and also don't be afraid to reach out. We're looking forward to that.